Hello and welcome into MFL with Laird. I am Andrew Laird, joined today by Mr. Meet the Manager, Ryan Walter. Ryan, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
This topic hits home for me and you, and I think a lot of people. And you messaged me, was that last week? Sometime, a couple days ago, whatever it was. And you were like, I think we should talk about this. And I was literally in the middle of like trying to figure out what I was doing. And I was like, yes, that's absolutely what we should do. And I feel like we'll get into it, but I think we're going to take different paths to our very similar situations. And I don't think either of us are wrong. Maybe we're both wrong. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thanks everyone for coming in. Kev Hurd dove in, but then left. But he gets the podium, first place on the podium. SR Monkey and So Rare Burrow joining him on the podium. Congratulations to you three. And just as David said, like on arrival, please. Sid, what's up? Andy, good to see you. Toby, who I've been talking to a ton lately about MFL because we just love it. And so, Ryan, what was there like a moment where you were trying to figure out your team and you were like, I should just talk about this out loud? Or is it just something you've been thinking about?
Yeah. So middle of last season, I had my ice team was overperforming. There was usually in ice, there's like one or two clear favorites.
Yeah.
They'd like stack the deck. And I was lucky I fell into a group with like 6 or 7 teams that all were within a couple points at the top. And I overperformed, got lucky. My team was doing really well, and I was pretty sure I was going to get promoted. And I was struggling last season to fill a Stone team and brought in a lot of players for Stone. And I'm like, crap, now I'm going to have 2 Stone teams. And then on the second to last match day of the season, my Stone team got promoted to Iron. And so I was like, great, now I have 2 problems on my hands. Good problems to have, but it was kind of in the back of my mind. And I was like, don't get ahead of myself. A lot of things can happen. I've been overperforming. This will probably catch up with me. Who knows what will happen? And then I clinched kind of early. I want to say with like 4 games left, I knew that I had the lead. And I was like, okay, now I have to figure out, what I have to do, and started having the wheels turn. And then when the Iron team promoted, it was really like, okay, this is a big problem.
Yeah, one of those like it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. I had almost the opposite introduction to it in that I had no thought that my Empire FC team was going to get promoted. And like I was projected, I think in the top 4, maybe. And it was like, if you're there, surely you have a chance. And I just felt like it was, maybe I just thought the shot was longer than it was. And so I was in 3rd and 4th for a decent amount of the second part of the season. But I still like didn't think about it. And frankly, the number of people I see that get promoted from 3rd place, like I think it's just such a gargantuan effort that I just look at 3rd place as not going up because I'm just like, by the time everyone's team is dead, but whatever. And so
you have to win like 3 coin flips essentially.
Right.
Which is statistically like even if you're balanced odds, very challenging.
Very challenging. And obviously people get promoted every season from from that playoff. And yet it just feels like such a long thing. And so the way that I was going into the end of the season was maybe I'll get 3rd. That'll be fun. And then I'll just like go back in ice. And then all of a sudden the second to last day of the season, I moved up to 2nd and I was like, oh, okay. And then the last game of the season, I was in 1st and I was like, holy shit. Sorry for swearing, but like there was just, I just didn't think of it at all. And then all of a sudden it was like, I'm almost guaranteed. I think I was guaranteed 1st or 2nd. And I was like, that's only, even if I finish 2nd, that's 1 win away from getting promoted. And I went the entire season not thinking about promotion at all, even though that's the whole point. But I was just like, I just didn't think of it at all. And then once I won that, it was like, wow, the hell am I going to do now? Because it's not like I had this overpowered team that happened to be in a league with like another overpowered team. Like I think the league I was in was just very competitive. And so when I looked at my team, that I was like, oh, this team's good enough to get to Stone. And that's very different than a team that's good enough to be in Stone, like,
Yeah.
and so obviously that happens IRL and in MFL, like the promoted teams are not supposed to be better than all of the teams that are above them. And
Right.
yeah, we have plenty of these OP teams. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday. They're more known for So Rare, but they play MFL, and I actually almost bought an Iron team in their league. And the only thing I remember from them early on, because they I don't think I referred them, but they joined kind of around my time, was they were the 80 overall team in Spark and just like blowing everyone away. And all of a sudden I saw them in Iron and they're like 6th. And I was like, game's catching up to you a little bit. Like, this game was a lot more fun when I had the OP team. And it's like, well, it's, just a different way to play. But seeing the teams that I was going to be coming up against in Stone, I was like, man, I have to make some changes. And of course I did this while I had already bought an Iron team, filled it with a bunch of players that should be in Stone. And I was like, I had a Stone team, but now I have Iron and Stone. And I just like, so kind of what we were talking about, do you stay with the team you have and probably get relegated? That's if you had your own players to start. If you had a bunch of loans, maybe you have to get them back. If you try to do loans again, do you get better players because now you're in a higher league? Do you go buy players? And so you were saying your Stone team had a lot of loaned players. Were you looking to bring those same players back for Iron, or are you looking up now?
So a couple of the loans were from people that I know. So I think I had one from Sid. I had one from Brian, who's okay, yeah, sure, who I ended up buying that player midseason. So I had a couple of people that I know, and then a couple of just sending out offers on the scouting.
Yeah.
So a little bit of both. Ironically, some of the players I was like, oh, this would fit in great to my Raleigh team that went from Ice to Stone. I'm like, I would love to bring that guy back to a Stone league, and went like, they don't have a Discord or a Twitter attached. I'm like, oh, well, I'll try, but I'm one of 100 again.
Yeah.
The higher end players, like one of the guys from Sid, I think Sid had a different plan for him coming into this season, and he would have been a good fit. But it seems like the jump to Stone is a pretty big jump. I'm sorry, the jump to Iron is a pretty big jump. And I thought it was going to be closer than it was. So even players that were like the top of my team in Stone would have been like the lower end of the 11 or the top end of the 16. So like kind of that 11 through 16 range. So I would have liked to, but I didn't have the opportunity this time. So it does feel a little bit like starting from scratch. I had a couple pieces that fit well off the bat, but I think I had 4 realistically, and 2 of those 4 were the 11 through 16 guys. They weren't the top end guys. So I was like, I can't even go and fill out I'm not filling out the bottom of the roster. I'm filling out the top of the roster down, which is so much harder. But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Toby was saying the 2 coin flips, and then the third game is stacked against you because it's from the team from the league above you, which shouldn't be tired. So yeah, that's a tough one. Fraxy, Pico Player, and Jimbo in as well. Jimbo, I meant to, so this Laird, I didn't realize until last week, or the last show that we did. Was that last week, Ryan? I don't know, whenever it was. And I went to tag Ryan on Twitter, and Ryan is also a Ryan Walter. And I was like, oh, all right, here we go. But anyway, Toby said, I went through this very much the same journey, and while I improved a lot in the offseason, my mindset is still that it's okay to relegate. So I'm fairly certain that if I had taken Empire FC's promotion possibility seriously, I would not have bought this Iron team. And I bought this Iron team. I bought this Iron team. And while I was putting it together, I basically decided to buy a Stone team. And I did this whole, like, if I'm going to buy Stone, I'll spend $3 more for an Iron team and just get pummeled. But I remember like putting players together. I think I had a watch list together of some of my players, because that was the point of the Iron team, and players that I had been like scouting on the market. I put them on a watch list and made it basically look like a full team. And I actually sent it to Jimbo. And I was like, if you saw this team, where would you think it was? And I was like, sending it hoping he says like, oh, that's definitely an iron team. And he was like, that looks like a high-end stone or a low iron team. And I was like, okay. Which like, again, was sort of, I mean, it wasn't the point to be low iron. And the problem is I actually had the top already done, at least what I thought was the top. So like the Stuart Freeman card, and I did a video on this yesterday for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's on the channel, but I have this 83 rated cam that I've never used before because I loan him out, and I had a 79 rated left back that I've never used, and I loan him out because I don't have teams good enough for them, and an 83 rated goalkeeper. And I was like, all right. And the idea was surround those guys with players to play in iron or stone. And mid 80s is too high for stone. I mean, I know people do it, but it was like,
yeah,
I think those types of players should be iron. The problem is I only had 2 of them. Like I didn't have 8 of them. And so when I went to fill the team, it felt like the price difference between 77 rated players and even 80 rated players was a bigger jump than anywhere else. Like that 3 overall just blasts the price up. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll try to get, I basically bought the lower end, 75, 76, and hoping like maybe they'll be 80 by the end of the season. And as we're just getting pummeled in every game. But that was the plan. And then as I'm buying these players, I'm like, man, these guys should have been who I added to Empire FC for Stone. And then I started adding guys there. And so the video I did yesterday was basically how I've been buying players on the market, which I had never done before. And it just felt like, at least until you get to the 79, 80 range, everyone is pretty cheap. And then as soon as you get to that 79, 80, it's almost like everyone above that are like the OG MFL players who have just decided we're not dropping these prices, which fair play to them. Like it's a fair market, but it doesn't feel like the value is there as much. Now, maybe the value is there, and it's just because these players went from $120 to $90. But if I'm trying to spend $25, the gap is just too big.
I think part of that as well is looking at accessibility from like replacements. I'm trying to think of how to say this easily. The rare packs are, I want to say 37,000 MFL. They're really expensive.
They are.
It's much easier to get an uncommon pack, get a 72, and then he goes up to 77 a couple of years in. But to get a rare player 80 plus, you have to buy either a rare pack, obviously, or the rare drops. And the rare drops are so limited now, and there's nothing above that. There's no shortcut to legendary from drop days. And then, there's only so many Lego packs getting opened, and to your point, those are getting grabbed up. So there does seem to be like a little bit of a gap or a space there where some of those players are tough to get to, which I think is perfectly fine. The market and the levels will sort themselves all out. It may be a hint or an indication that in a couple of seasons, the power curve in this space will probably shrink back, in 6 seasons as some of the OG cards start to retire, and we shrink back to like the newer phase of cards being the only cards that are being played. The stone, iron, maybe bronze may shrink back. Because to your point, there's just a gap of players. That supply gap, I think, is what's causing the demand, the price difference, and that may shrink back. So we may see in a couple of seasons that come back to life. I think on one of the streams I had, I think I did kind of a rough estimate to figure out when most of the OG mints. So Jimbo's in chat. Is it 77, 188? Anyone below that number has an extra 3 years of expectancy, and then anyone below has the lesser. I want to say it's 34. I want to say the cards after that are 34 years old is the average. And then the cards older than that, I want to say it's 37.
37, yeah.
So those, like almost all of those cards should be filtered out. I want to say it's like 6 seasons, 5 seasons or 6 seasons. And then I think we should see a reduced power creep. And so, whereas in the next couple of seasons, I think the average rating of the Stone and Iron team will probably go up for a couple seasons. I think then it'll start to come down because those are, those power creeps are going to go away. But who knows? Evan 77. I was pretty close.
I just look at 77,000. I'm like, that's good enough for me. It's funny because sorry.
Do you ever look at a player on the market and they're like 77, 485, and you're like, God, now I got to know if they're above or below?
I don't think I've seen one quite like that, but I do. So I've been, and I think I picked this up from Toby. So I just refreshed the homepage to look at the latest player listings. Like I've found more players that way than actually using like the marketplace filters and everything. And I have some borderline offensive opinions of people who post that they're selling all of their players and how they go about it that I'm going to keep to myself for now. But the number of players that I have found that get listed that have those really low, do we call them mint numbers, serial number, whatever they are. And I click on them and it's like, it felt like every single player that's under 77,000 was like MFL born at 16. And I'm like, this guy's been around for 13. Like, we don't even have 13 seasons yet. How is this possible? And it just, every progression line is so high. And it feels like everyone who joined the game before me had all of these players who've done like plus 20 over their careers and are finally selling them when they're 28 years old. But I can't get a full read on the market because ultimately there are people who are like, I'm done. I don't feel like playing anymore. And so they are like basement listing players that I'm happy to buy. But I was actually talking to Trust a little bit the other day because I was kind of talking to him about my plan, kind of about what to do with my MFL. And he was like, I think uncommon players are just so overpriced right now, and that what you get in return and where they're being played. And that's kind of the tricky thing about it that I was noticing when I was putting my teams together. So when I put this Welsh Empire team together 3 seasons ago, like the goal was I want everybody to tier break. So everyone I bought was 54 rated. And I was like, oh, this will be fun. And I think I spent $5 on most players in that team, if not more. And I look at the market now. Now, I did try to get them on the younger side. I think nobody was over like 24, 25. But like I'm looking at something right now on my screen here. Like you can get a 67 rated goalie, 28 years old, for $4. And it's like, where is this game gone? And what's funny is I don't think this makes like ice any easier. It's just like, oh, that you're just going to see 67 rated players in Flint and Spark because at $4, why not?
Yeah, my Spark team had 5 or 6 players that were uncommons, 64, 65, 66, 67. And I finished like 7th last year. Like, I do think I'm in one of the more difficult Spark leagues, which is fun. But yeah, to your point, like I had, man, my first season 2, I remember talking to Deke. Deke was the one that got me in, and I was like, hey, like, what do I need for this level? And I wanted to be competitive. I didn't necessarily have aspirations to like, oh, I have to win ice. And he was like, oh, just have like 60s as your starting 11. And I was like, okay. And looking at it now, like a lot of those guys that are 58, 59, 60 rated, like they're in Flint. So the movement of the power curve, even in just one calendar year, 10 seasons, has been so much on this game. So I think that's part of it. Trust said that uncommons were bad value right now. That was his kind of read.
Yes.
Like recently, within the last month, or was this previous?
let me look back because maybe I misread it.
So I know on one of the streams that he had, he broke down like expected MFL from the players, and he did a really good job of pointing out like a 22 rated uncommon was probably going to generate like $8 or $9 in MFL over 10 years. And I remember seeing that and being like, wow, that's significant, like a significant gap for what you're paying for versus what you get. And the thing that doesn't take into consideration is the potential that that uncommon goes to a rare and that their selling point then goes up quite a bit. But he brought up a really strong point at like, if there's no change, you're probably paying $10 for this player's career to just play the game, which is fine. Like we all spend $10 on dumber things. So like if you're enjoying the game, like that's a really good use of $10. But it caught my attention that uncommons at that time was kind of out of whack. But I think they've come down to your point that with a $4 uncommon goalkeeper to where it seems to be much closer to inline. And obviously they're not free. They're not all going to pay for themselves. But I have been seeing uncommon prices drop quite a bit to where they're so much more accessible.
So the backstory on this, and I'm going to trust is the not right. Well, it is the right word, and I'll use it, I guess. I'm going to trust that trust is okay with me sharing this. So the conversation was about how I was considering trying to buy a bunch of uncommon reward packs and reaching out to people and saying, basically, what's the bulk discount if I bought 5 or 10 of them? And because I basically had seen during the season, uncommon reward packs are like $24. After rewards come out, they're like 20. Maybe they become a little less. And he was saying basically where I was price-wise, he was like, I think that's actually bad value because the value of like, if you're buying the packs to sell the players, you're probably going to end up spending more than what you get out of the packs. And he said, it's basically just effectively like age roulette, that if you get older players, not that they're unsellable, but you're not going to get your value back. And so the line he said was, I think the older they get, the more true to value they are. But I think a 23-year-old, 68 overall player sells for about 25 when I think the return he can get you on average throughout his career is $10 to $12.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm not even sure it's that high, because as I see 68 rated players now for $5, and I'm like, I don't know if you can get your, if you're paying $20 for a pack to get a $5 player, you're not going to make it back, I don't think.
Yeah. And I think I've heard a lot of people say that their goal or their direction is that they want to be sustainable. And I just think unless you have an extreme strategy, like Dollar Club Agency, I think being fully sustainable is unrealistic. And I think a lot of people had kind of the same approach on So Rare. And we realized like, hey, over time, over years, that doesn't work, because if you're fully sustainable, the site doesn't have revenue income unless you just continue to have player growth. And MFL may have a ton of player growth over the next 2 or 3 years, like real calendar years, not seasons.
Yeah.
But if we look at the ecosystem now and make an assumption and say, this is our size of the ecosystem, we'll have players come in, players come out, but this is kind of where we are, then we can't all stay fully sustainable. And I think that's perfectly fine. Like, I think if I can return 60% of what I'm getting, so let's say that I have $100 in, and then those players bring me back $60 worth of MFL. Then to get back over the next 10 seasons, I need to put in $40. So I'm like 60% sustainable. Personally, I'm really happy with that. Opening packs on reward day, the drops, the Wednesday drops, like putting in money periodically when that happens is really fun. I joked with Kev yesterday, like I did not intend to buy a drop pack because I need the guaranteed players that can go into Iron and Stone. And it makes more sense for me to buy older players that can fit in rather than buying a pack and kind of taking that gamble. But like I degened in and bought a pack and had fun, and I'm glad I did. It doesn't necessarily help me this season, but I'm perfectly okay doing that and knowing that like I'll lose slowly, but that's my cost to have fun and enjoy the game. And I think people have to realize that there's going to be a little bit of a difference between what you get back when you buy a player, what you get back, and what you pay. And like that's our cost to play the game. And again, there are some extreme examples like Dollar Club that's going with this like crazy angle, being really aggressive on the market to find really good deals, but like competing, trying to win, having that fun. There's a little bit there that we're going to have to foot the bill.
It's funny because I guess I just didn't clarify when I talked to Trust about it, and I didn't clarify it here, but like there was no part of me trying to buy bulk reward packs to sell. It was purely like I need more uncommon players in my agency. And packs are fun. And so let me just buy a bunch. And I think it's something that a number of people have said to me for the past, what feels like 2 months, maybe. I have MFL time is a blur to me, but that basically like the reason why I set up my agency as I did of I only want players from packs and I'll just keep going is because the pack was fun, and the difference between what I was paying for a pack and what I was getting on the secondary market, when the secondary market offered, for the most part, anything I wanted, the gap in price wasn't big enough where I was like, yeah, I'll just buy the pack because it's more fun. And it does feel like where the market is now is advantageous to buy from the market instead. And yesterday's pack drop was the first time I did not buy a pack. And I say that as somebody who 3 minutes after the drop went and I was like, damn it, let me just go buy one. And they were gone. And like I would have bought a pack last night, but in 3 minutes they were gone. And like in past pack, like the last couple pack drops, 3 minutes, packs are still there. Something is still there. And I was like, I'll buy one. And I didn't. And I think it was actually Trust who said it once, because he still buys packs, and he was like, yeah, and I'm like, you don't need any more players. He's like, yeah, but packs are fun. I think, it's obviously supporting the site. It's not, I put in enough money, another, $12 is not going to make a big difference. And I was like, you're right. And so I kind of had that mentality yesterday, and in 3 minutes it was gone. And, but just where the secondary market is now, it's tough to see where packs fit in on my plan now, because they're fun. Despite I can't remember the last one guy I got that was like that I was actually very excited about. But I don't know, like I'm sitting on a bunch of MFL right now and can get 3 players that would go right into any ice team. And I'm just sitting on it because I was like, I think it might be better to just spend the $4, the $8, the $12 now for a player that I can have for another couple seasons and not use that MFL. And one of the things that I think about when you mention the sustainability part is everybody wants to be sustainable, whatever that means. And I do like this definition from Toby where he said, when I say I want to be sustainable, it has nothing to do with actual money, even though it does. To me, being sustainable is being able to run my team season in and season out without needing to buy players and packs off the market. So I think that is still a money-based sustainability formula. It's just not there, not like directly how much am I spending versus how much am I making. But the reason why I went for the expansion was, one, it felt like players were cheap. And 2, I see this path of just that, not having to buy players or packs every season if I don't want to. And not that I'm like buying packs because I feel like I have to, but it was actually kind of Nep's journey And he mentioned it in a video previously where his plans from 6 months ago are starting to really come to fruition. And I was like, man, that feels like forever ago. And it's been 6 months. And I remember talking to him kind of early, like May, June. We were talking about MFL content. And he was like, the biggest problem with my content right now is that I need this to like, I need time for it to work. And then I can make good content about why it worked. But here's an update on my 39 clubs. And like, that's not entertaining for enough people. But once I get to a point, now it's like, okay, here's what I built, here's how it works, and here's the content from that, which I loved. And so when I started buying players, it was part of that. Let me build a true pyramid of clubs that becomes sustainable in the I'm able to win enough to get new players to fill in and move up. But I don't have a deadline for this. And I think the sustainability part of it for a lot of people comes with some sort of deadline. In 3 seasons, I need to make more than and if I could play this game forever, it's a total success for everybody because it means it's going forever. It means it's still really engaging, means I'm still having fun. And if I can build something that allows me to be sustainable in 15 years, like actual years, not even seasons, then great. And I think that's the way that I've looked at the sustainability part. And the reason why I've been buying players lately is it feels like that is I hate to say like the faster path because I'm not in a rush, but it does feel like that's the more prudent way to build now. And if it changes in the future, ideally I'm in a position where, because I bought these players cheaper and again, the cheaper part is not because I want to sell them later. It's because if I can get a $10 player for $5, you better believe I'm buying a second $5 player. Like it's happening. And so like, I hate to be this guy, but the market is low. And so I'm going to buy in the low market.
Sorry, I have kind of a follow-up to this, but how much do you look at progression when buying players? Previous progression.
I look at it. That's a great question. And so I was about to say I've never bought a player because of past progression, but I can literally think of one specifically that I did. I probably have not had more than a handful of players that I changed my mind on based on their progression. So it's like all the ratings are there. The price is right. And if I click in and I'm like, wow, they have literally never progressed. Yeah. And I have that player. I feel like I'm name dropping Trust 1,000 times in this, but I have some player from Trust. He was a 19-year-old Cam, went up +1 in his first season. He's 27 right now and has never had another stat increase in that time. Now, I think he won the Playmaker Award last year. So like he's good, but zero progression. And so every time I find a player and I see that straight line, all I think of is Arturo Torres on my team. And I was like, and so the funny thing is that I tend to whatever player it is, I look at all of the current ratings and think, can that help me right now? That's what I find. It's not, I don't buy players and be like, man, if he just got a +2 in shooting, then I'm like, and so I almost buy players with the expectation that they will not progress.
Yep.
And so any progression is a bonus. Now, there is a player, I'll find him in a second, that I was like, oh, this guy looks good. And then I saw his progression and I was like, I'm going to buy this guy.
I'm sending 2 players. You can either go to my agency and I can tell you who they are if the links are easier. But
this guy?
Yeah. So I packed him. If you look at his progression, I think he was a 66 uncommon reward pack, or it was a drop day pack. And I was like, what an unlucky pull. And 66, like it's just on the bottom end for a standard pack. And he's been fantastic in the game, in the engine, and also flown up, which is super fun to watch all the plus ones. And I think this is part of like what makes Pack so interesting. And he's still only 24, which he's probably done now. And I'm probably like, what a bummer. But with the Pack, there's always kind of that theory of an unknown potential. If we look at players on the market, I think we tell ourselves what you just said. I'm buying their stats now. And we kind of assume that they don't have super high potential heights. Maybe they'll go up +1 or +2, but I'm getting what I'm paying for right now. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that the packs, the unopened packs, still have a draw, and why they're priced above what we think they're worth.
Sure.
And I think that there's probably, I think they're probably too inflated right now, but there's still that like, okay, I'm buying an uncommon, but he's going to become a rare. Okay, I'm buying a limited pack, but it's going to become an uncommon. And then, so like this is the other one. This is the other example. If you see a guy like this on the market, I mean, we've seen enough of these graph charts where it's up. Like, you're paying a super premium for this. And like, typically when we're scrolling, I think you and I do the same thing from hearing you. When you're scrolling the marketplace and you see a guy that's like $90 and you're like, he's worth like 45. Well, if you see this, he's probably worth $90. This was the player that I bought from Brian, and I saw him listed. I was scrolling. He was a 74 rated going into last season. And I saw him listed on Brian's agency when I had Brian on. And I asked him afterwards, and I was trying to think of how to phrase the question because I didn't want to be a jerk. Controlling my language, but I had the question. He had him listed at like $120, and I was like, Brian, where did you pull this value from? And he kind of shrugged, and he was like, I don't know. And I was thinking I would love to have this guy in for a loan, and I would buy him, but I'm not buying him at 120. And I was waiting to see if he didn't sell it. I'm thinking nobody's going to buy this guy for $120. I'll see if I can loan him in at a good rate. And Brian was super generous with a loan. And then like halfway through the season was like, do you want to buy him? And I'm like, yeah, of course. He's gone up like another +3. He's doing great every game. He's super fast. I'm like, this would be fantastic. And I'm thinking, and I asked him, I'm like, well, what do you want price wise? And I'm thinking he's worth more than really I'm willing to spend. Brian came back with like the average price of a 75 rated right back. And I'm like, Brian, that's way too generous, but I'm going to say yes, unless you rethink it. And he was like, no, like happy to send him at that price. And I was like, that was way too good of a deal. But so thank you, Brian. Genuinely appreciate it. But like, this is another good example. If you see this guy on the market, and I know Trust has talked about looking for this and scouting this, like there should be big price premiums. And sometimes you lose. Sometimes they go up four, and then they flatten out. But this happens too often when we see these crazy runs. Too often the players go up quite a bit. So you're buying what you know is future progression. But I never look for guys like this on the marketplace because I think that there are people that are more engaged at this and better than me. And I just feel like I'm never going to outpace them on players like this.
I was just noticing. So we tier broke on October 21st, 4 days later, 76, 2 days later, like the day later, 77, the day later, 78, and 4 days later, 79.
Yeah.
80, what is that? 2 weeks, 12 days. It's crazy.
Just crazy. He, like every time when I looked, whether he had an overall +1 or not, there were plus stats. There's like +1 shooting, +1 dribbling, +1 physical. And I was like, cool. And the next day it was like +1 pace, +1 defense, +1 passing. And I was like, nice. And then like the next day he was +1. And it was like every day it was like plus like 3 individual Laird stats. And I was like, man, this is insane. I think even like the week and a half that he didn't go up a +1, I think he had like a +1 shooting, like each one of those days, which on a fullback isn't going to have a huge impact on overall. But I was like, man, he's still getting stat increases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that period of time was after he had played his 10 or 15 games. So when the progression per game, the match XP per game drops significantly. So it was even expected in that sense. And I'm curious to see how he does in Iron, because if he flies up again like that in Iron, he's going to get to a point where he's too good for the league. And I really don't want to hamper his progression.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm going to keep a close eye on. And if he continues to fly up, I probably will cancel the contract and send him out, which will bring a mid-season panic because I'm going to have to fill more slots. But I'm excited. That's kind of a fun little watch that I have.
That is definitely fun. Sorry, we started ignoring the chat and a few people jumped in. So I just want to shout out Amreezy. Nice job on the Pack Drop stream yesterday. The memes of you and Jimbo just made my morning. Quinny, what's up? Let's see. Sid said, when your teams pay itself for finding replacements, upgrades, that's the very healthy place to be. It needs to be very disciplined, structured approach to get to that point, though, and which I totally agree. And I don't know if I'm disciplined or structured enough to do it, to be honest. And he said an agency as big Will has broke through recently, and he's been playing since the beginning. And I think Trust has said the same thing, that it took kind of like a little bit of time to get there. It's a long road, but definitely achievable. Adding older players with value adds a short-term benefit in few cases as well. And Toby and I, so the guy, I'm going to pull up this guy in a second. Toby said, I look at progression a lot when scouting players, probably too much since I know I don't have enough data to properly assess what I'm seeing, but I'm delusional enough to think I do. And to be honest, every time I look at a guy who hasn't progressed, I like immediately think of Calva and I'm like, is this a Dempsey? Like, did he not play for the last 3 years? And I'm going to, but mine's going to be different because he's actually going to, and I don't. But this striker that I bought recently, I was like, yeah, he's okay. And just because of the progression, I was like, okay, I'll buy it. Like, I wasn't overly, like, I was like, he was fine. I think he was $10. And I was like, but maybe he keeps going. He's only 26, not too old. Now, granted, I have been buying guys who tend to be older because they're cheaper. So like if I buy guys that are 27, 28, I'm just like, oh, they'll never go up a +1 ever again. And so it's just not that. Jimbo said, most of my buys are for here and now, not the future. I'm reasoning most of my players are for the past. And so it Ron John's here. See you guys in the future. But yeah, it's just, I don't like it from the progression standpoint. It's a weird thing to think about, that I think progression is the best part of the game, and I don't think about it at all when I'm going to buy players. Yeah. It's almost like progressions for packed guys, and for these guys who are already used, then they're already done.
Yeah,
I bought a guy last mid-season that had solid progression in his first 2 seasons, nothing's crazy but solid, and then hadn't played at all for a season and a half. And in half a season, he went +3 for me. Love that.
I think that's part of my point, is that you said the packed guys are for progression. That's why the packs are expensive.
Yeah, that's fair. So we didn't talk at all about promotion, excuse me, since that was the topic for today. What did you think about when you moved up? Because like, what was the kind of the percentage of players that you had in Stone that were loaned? Not like rev share, but like how many of your 18 to 20 players?
I think it was 10
okay.
were loaned in. And yeah, I'm trying to go back and remember specifically who was loaned and who wasn't. I think it was around 10. And they were all kind of like 70. Most of them were kind of around like 75 76 rated. So good stone players, but not good enough to be an iron.
Yeah.
And then a couple of them, Sid had one, like I said earlier, that was higher, that Sid had a different plan for this season. So I ended up with 4 players, like from preseason, from pre-contracts, I had 4 players in my iron team, and 2 of them were midfielders that were one's a 75, one's a 76. So like I said, like I knew those guys were going to be my rotational help. And then I had the fullback, the right back that we just showed. And then I have a center back that is a CDM that's plus out of position to center back. So I knew I had those guys. So I had 2 midfielders and 2 defenders. And so I knew getting a lot of the forwards and attacking players was going to be what I needed to do. And I still need to find several positions. I think I still need 7 players for that team to get into the season.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have iron strikers, right wings, center mid, center defensive mids, I still need help. That's my my goal for the next couple of days. I tried to get my lower teams sorted quickly. I have a Flint, a Spark team, and I try to get them really sorted really quickly so that I don't have to think about it and I can try and focus on some of these other loans. Because I've loaned in quite a bit throughout the seasons, and I've learned there are some players that some agencies that will wait until like game 1 is finished to loan, and I avoid them at all cost. I'm not going to call people out, but the flip side of it, there's a individual from Brazil that's asking for help from Spark. And I'll shout you out the best way that I have found success is to just message people on Twitter or Discord and say like, hey, I'm a real human. I pay attention. I'll rotate your player, make sure that they get good progression or good fitness, and I'll do my best. And that little bit has been helpful to try and secure deals. I don't lowball people really bad. I typically will try and be like on my favor, but like if a player probably is worth 5%, I may go in with 4, and then I'll be willing, if they're like, hey, I really want 5, I'll come up. But yeah, Sid's right. Loaning has been, the past 2 seasons has been more difficult.
So I think that's a direct result of players selling for less, though. That players are getting to the point where it's, oh, I could have sold this guy for $20, $200, $2,000 3 months ago, and now I can get 25% of that. So I'll just hold it and loan it.
Yeah.
And you would think that should lead to more effective loan deals for people who are trying to get loans, because theoretically there's a higher loan supply, but it feels like the people who are loaning are adamant about what they want. And maybe I think part of it, and I think Sid is, I think Sid's like too high up the pyramid to appreciate this, but it's probably affect like that as well. But with power creep, now it's like, well, if I loan this guy to an iron team 3 seasons ago for 5%, and now if people want him in ice, I'm going to want a higher percentage because he made me, X amount of MFL 3 seasons ago in iron, and now I want the same amount. Now you have to do 12, 15% in ice, and people don't want to do that. And so, yeah, it does seem like it's a weird, like I'm not on like Sid's level in terms of the pyramid, but it does feel like because the players are so cheap that people would just sell them, and for loans, it's like, well, if I'm going to keep this guy, I need to get something out of him. And so you just get these kind of like unreasonable loan requirements. Yeah.
And going back to the sustainability model. So if you're getting 60% of the player, if people are loaning them, they want to get 100% of the player. Like if it's a rare player, they want to get 37,000 MFL so they can open a rare pack to replace him. And people are doing the math and realizing that they need pretty high amounts. which is perfectly fair. The market, whether it's the loan market against the purchase market, will balance itself out. If the loan market becomes too difficult, the alternative is to go buy players. And that's the difference in kind of the way that you and I have approached this season is you've bought a lot of players. I'm looking to loan them in. And if I can't loan them in, I have to go buy players or forfeit the season, which I don't think I'm prepared to do. But like over time, those two things should balance to where they're kind of equal. You know, where the loan market, if the loan market is too difficult, then the purchase market should come up, and vice versa, to where they kind of meet at a fair value or a similar value or similar difficulty.
Yeah. Toby said that's also why I aim to be sustainable. I just don't like loaning players in. It's funny when as the players, or somebody mentioned it, was it in the When Dirk Discord, or maybe it was mine. I'm not sure. The conversation was basically how much MFL are you going to get from loaning a player versus selling them, or buying a player, and how much MFL you have to give up. And it was almost comparing, like it was almost apples and oranges, because when you buy a player, presumably it's for more than this season. Like you're probably playing them in future seasons, and giving up MFL like is just for this season, and you could, buy a player next season. But I feel like how much MFL am I giving up is only like a one season mentality. But buying players, like the comparison of the one season of MFL versus, hopefully 10 seasons of buying that player and being able to generate MFL from them, it just doesn't feel like the timelines are the same. And so that's why I feel like the math tends to get a little fuzzy of how much are you going to pay for this player versus if you just give up 5% MFL this season, what is that worth? And that's why I started buying players, because I was like, I think if I can get a guy for $10, I've done this really weird thing in my head to justify it. I mean, we all do this, I hope, where I sent an offer for somebody. Let's say that it was listed for $20, and I offered 17, and they were like, I want 20. And I was like, over 3 seasons, that's $1 a season. And I was just like, he's being outrageous. Just outrageous. This $3 and I was just like, what am I doing? And I was like voluntarily giving up players that I want for, a 3% increase. I know that math doesn't work on that one, but it was like, I was doing the same thing of, I'm not just spending the extra $3 for this season. It's hopefully for the next 7-8 seasons. And from a real world time perspective, like that's borderline this time next year. Should I spend an extra $3 so I have this player for an entire year? And that's when I start to like justify. And that's also where the whole sustainability thing comes from. It's like, do I want to be sustainable in a year, which is, 15 seasons ish, maybe not that long, 8 seasons. Or do I, and even that, like 1 year is nothing. Like I started my video yesterday and I was like, I've been playing for 6 months. And I was like, it hasn't been 6 months. And I was like, I've been playing for 9 months. And I was like, I feel like I've been playing this game for 10 years. And in a positive way, not a negative. Like, and so the being able, like the whole path to sustainability timeline, I feel like we should think in real time and not in seasons. And yet all I think about is seasons. Yeah.
I've made that mistake several times where I'm like 6 years ago, and then I'm like 6 seasons ago. Sid brought up a stat, said there's 7,219 retirees over the next 3 seasons. Said I'm reading that as total over the next 3 seasons. I just pulled up MFL info. There's 263,000 players. So 7,000 players is less than 3%, which means that we're seeing less than 1% of the players retire per season over the next 3 seasons. If an average lifespan is 10 years, then that should be closer to 10. We're at 10% of expected retirement.
So
that number is really low.
I think I think that number is wrong. So
it seems too low.
I believe it came from this tweet from Alexis over at MFL Assistant. So 7,219. I read this. Maybe I'm reading it wrong myself. I read this like per season. Not in, so like, does that math? 4,
No.
6. It doesn't math. Whoops, sorry. Doesn't math. So basically 999 got retired this season. 2,200 will retire next season. 4,200 the season after, and 7,200 the season after that. Not 7,219 over the next 3 seasons.
Okay, so a little bit of rounding. That's 4%. The next 3 seasons, we'll see 4% of the total players retire. That number is very low. That number should be closer to 30%. So like the curve is at the bottom, and it's going to go up exponentially over the next 5 to 6 seasons. So if we're seeing an impact on the loan market and the marketplace now because of retirees, it's the beginning of the wave. It's not the end. And I'm not saying this is like a doom and gloom or like it just references how the power creep will change. And it's retired information.
I don't think it is actually. I don't know what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, like I think
I'll just go back to the tweet. I mean, it seemed to be a little easier.
It's interesting to see how like retirement will change the things that we're used to, right? We kind of get into these comfort patterns where we're like, oh, I can loan a player into Stone of an 82 rated for like 4%. And then the next year it's 7. And we're like, wait a minute, it was 4. Like we've made this mistake on So Rare where we have these expectations from what we've learned in the past. And then like the game changes or the market changes and people don't adjust their expectations. They're like, no. Like this player sells for $72. You're like, not anymore. Like not with the new. And so this has been something that, and I don't have an answer for the future to know like what the master plan is, but I think that the retirement changes is going to drastically shake things up. And I'm trying to understand it and figure out like what the trends are saying and how it'll impact.
Yeah. So Yax is confirming that was like per season, basically.
But based on assuming that MFL Info's total players is correct, and I assume it is, that site seems really good with their APIs. Like that number is actually really low. Like those numbers seem big because of what we've been seeing in the past, but we have to assume that something like 10% of our agency is going to retire sometime in the future, 6 seasons down the road, that 10% of our agency is going to retire each year.
Right.
Which is like crazy.
That sounds awful.
We get 1 or 2 of the calendars right now and we're like, no. And that number, if you have 70 players in your agency, that number will be 7 on average year over year. Toby, I don't think it's the Laird boom start. I think that the impact of the original players being minted is still going to have a larger impact than the Laird boom. I think all of the players that were minted to build the game and having their larger retirement, I think that's still going to have a larger impact than the splurge of the Laird boom. I wish I had numbers. I wish I could back up my opinion, but because the site slowed down pack minting drastically after that. We had the Laird boom, and so they raised the numbers of packs that were being released on drop days, and then it was like 2 drops later, it took 15 minutes to sell out, which is unheard of, and then they drastically pulled back the number of packs that were being minted,
which a lot of people were asking for.
Yes. And I wonder how many packs are being purchased as well, because I know there's a lot of the diamond players, like the Dow and Sid, are buying a bunch of packs and then putting them on the marketplace at lower levels at uncommon and limited. So we're seeing a lot of players come in as well from reward packs. I'm sure they're looking at that and looking at the number of players that are on the marketplace and the retirements to make sure that we don't get 6 years in the future and there just aren't enough players for teams, that we're at an average of like 12 players per team. When I've heard Math speak, he's definitely looking at future seasons and what's expected from the game based on like big averages, not specifics, to make sure that like everything still feels good. There's enough players per team, but there's not too many, so that the game kind of flows to still have like a good feel to it.
Yeah.
But with players retiring like that, I think that will impact things pretty drastically.
Sid said, I try to price them based on an average retirement age of 37 versus how much they yield on a 1-season loan. Pro is they can progress more, and con being early retirement. 37. And then he said 37 versus the 35 retirement age will fasten up the process. That's a funny word. I pretty much consider anybody at 30 dead, whether they have a retirement symbol or not. Like I would never buy a 30-year-old player. I don't buy 29-year-old players, regardless. Well, I don't want to say regardless of the price, because I probably have done that. But it feels like we're talking about 37, 35, where in reality, as soon as that retirement badge hits at 32, like you can use them less. Nobody's going to buy them if you want. Even loaning, people aren't as weird as it sounds, like people aren't super psyched about loaning older players. And so while we want to like use 35, realistically, it's like 32.
Yeah. I think the first 2 years of the retirement symbol haven't felt so bad. The red calendar the last year is dreadful. I loaned a player from Calvinator 2 seasons ago. I think he wanted like 13 games. I couldn't get him 13 games. Like he was not regenerating fitness fast enough. I played him like 2 games, and then I was like, oh, I'll just give him like a game or 2 off. Like that's kind of been my normal rotation. And it was like 4 games later before he got back to like 96. And then I played him again, and he was back to 88. And I was like, uh-oh. So I don't think Calvinator did it intentionally, but he got a bonus percentage on that loan because I'm like, I can't get him into 13 games. He's going to be dead. Like the guy's running around with a cane out there. I don't know what to do. But yeah, that last season's really tough. That was a really good learning lesson for me around expectations. I've seen questions in Discords around like, how much can I actually play this guy? And if I'm building teams and they have that red calendar, I'm not using them in my head count. Like if I'm like, I need 18 players and one of them is a red calendar, I'm like, I need 19 players.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's a goalkeeper and I can run my primary goalkeeper 4 out of 5 games and then they can just fill in periodically. But like that player, I'm not counting them in my head count.
David said, not just 10% retiring, but it's often your best players are the ones eating dust, which, I mean, it's going to be everybody all over.
Yeah.
Toby said there are a few seasons in a row that'll shock us and then it'll even out and stabilize. Yeah. I mean, once we get used to it, we'll be fine. I have 2 red retirement guys on my main team.
Go get another guy. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the head count, like if you're running thin, like 17, 18, like save yourself now, go get another guy.
Yeah.
It was really tough. I would like to have a better understanding of how physical plays into that. My experience, age is a much larger impact for recovery than physical. A couple seasons ago, I played in a league that had a rare striker in Spark, and he would play that. Yeah, he would play that striker like 10 games in a row and run him down to like 74%. And then he would bench him once and he would be back up into the mid 90s. And his physical was only like 40. And yeah, when they were dropping down that low, he had 3 players that he did that with. He had 2 uncommons that were pretty high and rare. And so it was an annoying manager to have in the league because if you played him with those teams, he was very difficult. Mm-hmm. But if you got him when he rested him, the team was very manageable.
Huh.
And so I kept looking at his cadence and I'm like, please rest against me. Please rest against me. I was fighting for promotion. And so I was paying attention to what he was doing. And I mean, seriously, like he would rest them and they'd be at like 71% and they drive up to like 94, 95.
Wow.
And then, but they were young. They were all like young 20s. And then when they get, and I don't think their physical was that high, because that was one of the things I was like, his physical is low. He's not going to jump back up fast. I think that's a bigger impact. I think age is a significantly bigger impact on fitness, recovery, and fitness training than we assume it is. Because I haven't heard of anyone else that plays the game that way. That runs guys down into the 70s and then just bounces them back up. So we don't have a lot of data points for that.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason it was so interesting to me.
So this has nothing to do with the topic, but it's something I've been thinking about, and you just mentioned it. How do you see the physical attribute fitting in the game? Is it just in recovery, or do you look at it? Do you think it affects, like, what do you think it affects?
I think it affects duels, and I wonder how much it affects other things that I'm not paying attention to. Like, does it impact winning headers? So if you have like a high physical, low shooting striker, are they still able to win headers and put headers in? And every time somebody wins a header and scores against me, I look at their physical to try and see if I can form an opinion. I think it matters for duels. I remember long time ago, Kev was having a lot of success with pressing a ton and being very aggressive. And I was trying to mirror what he was running. It wasn't working for me. And I went back and looked at his team. All of his midfielders had high defense, high physical, and mine didn't. I didn't build my team out that way. I think physical has a massive impact on winning duels.
Do you think it has an impact anywhere else?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything where I've been like, oh, I think that's a high physical stat.
Oh, wait. Preseason 9 notes mention about physical being important. Indicates a player's endurance, ability to pressure opponents, and win duels. So the reason why why I think about it is I won't like ghost them, even though they're in the live chat right now, but they were like, every team that I have that overperforms is overly physical. Like they have like high physical ratings. And he's like, I think there's just a lot in the game that people don't realize is affected by physical rating. And so they look at a player and they're like, yeah, he has low physical, like whatever. And it's more detrimental than we think. And I've literally become like a physical snob, that if a player has a low physical, I like refuse to buy them now. And I don't know what low means yet, but the higher the physical, the more I think about it. Rory said physical is huge for a striker, and specifically their ability to get those shots on target under pressure from defenders, which makes sense. But I think, like, I don't think it's just for strikers or just for defensive mids trying to win duel. Like, I think it's important for everyone. We just don't know why. And I'm willing to just be like, okay, it's important. I'll just go get it.
EAFC, FIFA, physical was a stat that kind of got ignored as well. And then if you pay attention, like the pros cared, like the players that were like represented by gaming agencies, like they cared. And then I think it started, the opinion started to neutralize a little bit. I wonder if we'll see the same thing. I wonder if, like, I think everyone's pressing a lot right now. I think in the tactics, I think a lot of people are running high pressure. And that might be why everyone or whoever said that is having a lot of success with high physical players, because he's gaining the advantage. Like, they're playing into his strength, but we don't know enough about it to realize that that's why we're losing games. We're like, we probably should be on low pressure against him. And we're like, oh, worked yesterday, I'm going to try it again today. Like, we don't have all of the answers figured out. And it would be interesting to take like a full team of low physical players and then run low pressure and see if they have better success than high pressure.
Right.
But it's harder by the nature of the game. It's harder to run kind of those experiments. We don't have access to like a sandbox where we can just go in and run a bunch of tests. So that very well may be a large piece of it.
So you're saying physical versus defending is an interesting debate while looking at a defender. It's not a debate at all. Just get high both. Get your eight shooting, 85 physical. You'll be set.
They mentioned in the notes to the start of last season that physical was going to impact slowing down strikers' runs. 2 seasons ago, we were seeing a lot of the like long through balls and the defensive challenge. And they said, hey, one of the fixes that we are going to implement is physical will impact those long runs. Like you should be able to use a high physical center back to like bump and knock the guy off his run. They didn't go that far into it, but that was kind of how like I read it, explained it. Did you feel like pace was less important for defenders last season?
I think so. My opinion on pace, specifically with defenders, is that it's easy to make up for it because you just play a low block, and then like that's what you should do if they're slow. And so, I certainly never tinkered with like playing a high block with low pace defenders, and so that just didn't. So the answer is no. Like I didn't feel it because I felt like tactically I just made up for it. And sometimes it's just like, if they get beat, I look and it's like, oh, this guy had a 90 pace striker. So it just didn't matter.
Special guest.
So yeah, like I didn't really notice.
Stop, please. I didn't change my block as much. I felt a small difference. And I don't know how much of it's confirmation bias and how much of it is like really a big change in the engine. But it's interesting to me because one of my favorite defenders in real life is and was Matt Hummels. But like in the EAFC games, he was literally unusable because he was too slow.
Yeah.
And it was always something that annoyed me because I was like, he's fine in real life. Like his pace is not noticeable. Like nobody's watching in real life and thinking like Matt Hummels is so slow. Like his positioning and some of the other things and like the way that the ball moves through the field was more impactful than his straight line speed. And it always annoyed me. And I think I saw some of that same feeling in the first seasons of MFL, where everyone was like, you have to have fast center backs. And I have felt less so in the past season. And I know that in the Diamond League, where everyone has 99 stats and everything, I know that some of the Diamond managers have talked about like pace still being very relevant. But like 80 is fine at that level against a 99 pace striker. Or it seemed to be fine from what I'm not managing those teams, but so like it makes me think like, hey, if I'm going up against a 70 pace striker in Iron, is 50 okay? Like, am I okay if I set my tactics up at 50 and he has high physical? So it's interesting to see like how it all balances out and if everyone's going to be playable if they have the right stats.
Yeah, the only kind of pace example I have is when I built Welsh Empire. Everybody has high pace, and I felt like that team like greatly overperformed and in Spark, and so like it ended up winning the cup and finishing third, I think, one year, and I think we were projected 8th or 9th. And like I'm not good enough at this game to move a team from 8th to 3rd and win a cup. And so I was like, I think it literally is just the pace. And every goal I scored, it felt like, oh, through ball. Yeah, one of my 88 pace strikers will get it. Doesn't matter that he has a 52 shooting. He's just going to, win that ball. And so that's my only thought. But that's carried over to, I don't like buying slower players and I don't like buying low physical players. And I think because physical and pace aren't hugely part of like overall ratings for most players.
Yeah.
That they're important in the game, but aren't reflected rating wise. And so like, I have it here just on my screen. Like for wingers, attacking wingers and center forwards, pace is 13%, which is the highest of any other position. But like 13%
for pace
really,
or for any stat?
it's the highest pace for any position.
Got it.
Like it's probably the lowest of all of the ones that go into their overall rating, but it's the highest for that. And so it's 10% for wingbacks and fullbacks and 10% for strikers. But like center mids, wide mids, CDMs, 0% of their overall goes to pace. And you cannot tell me that a faster CM, everything being equal, and one is faster than the other, that the faster one is the same.
Yeah.
And so that's how I look at it. And for physical, center backs, even for wingers and cams, like it's low. Midfielders, it's low. It's actually 0 for the first ones. But if I feel like if I have a higher physical guy, like it shows up in the game, basically.
But so I'm in the loan market, obviously. And the interesting thing about that is it impacts what people are asking for from loans. Like I saw a really low asking price for a high rated player. And I was like, oh, gonna ask for that guy. And looked, and he was 34 pace for a midfielder. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. And so I've kind of asked myself, like, would it have been fine? Like if I played him into the group, could I have run him on low position flexibility and just run him as a 6 and then run a faster center mid and then an attacking mid next to him? And it was perfectly fine. And there was a great deal to be had. And I put too much emphasis on it. I don't know. It's one of the things that was interesting talking to Brian. Brian was saying that he was looking to find players that were good but undervalued by the community. And he had a couple of left mid, right mids with like 99 defending. And he ran some interesting setups. Yeah. In Diamond, of course. But he ran some interesting setups to leverage that high defending from, like, I don't think anyone really looks at the left mid, right mid and is like, I really want a good defensive left mid, right mid.
No, man.
But
I'm looking for 88 passing. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Passing, maybe shooting. But if you run a 3-5-2, you can turn that into a really effective low block and like shut down teams with a 3-man defensive line and then get one through ball out. And I know Bob talked about Brian being a bit of a nightmare to play against. The overall ratings, Bob should have killed Brian every time. And I think Brian got him both times in the league. And so it makes me wonder, like, am I just following, to your video a couple weeks ago, am I just following the meta too closely? Like, are there deals and opportunities to be had?
So it said, don't talk to Brian too much. He plays fullbacks at left mid, right mid, and dominates top teams.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is there secrets to be found and secrets to be had? Or are we too locked into our bias of like pace at center mid is too important? Well, maybe you can hide that stat. We look at real life, like Tony Cruz was never a fast center mid, had one of the great careers. And I do think that the engine on MFL does a really good job of reflecting real life. That was always one of the complaints about EAFC was like, it was just a stupid video game. MFL feels more real.
Yeah.
Like the tactics matter, the decision-making, hearing some of the really good managers like Sid and Brian talk about like, how did you set that up? Like, how did you make that work? Sid talked about his 4-2-4. Yeah. And like full theories matter. Like actual decision-making and thinking and working through stuff matters. So it's something that I'm like, hey, where can I zig where other people zag, to kind of borrow a popular phrase?
Yeah. Yeah. Sid and Roy talk about Finn. Yeah. 85 plus on every single position and plays a very high line in the 3-5-2. Like as Toby said, let's just say the overall weighting doesn't really have anything to do with the actual match engine.
So I've been wondering about that because I know that the team has talked about overall ratings and how it impacts. And obviously higher overall rating means you have higher individual stats in most cases. But I do wonder if it actually matters, or if it's just a representation of the individual stats. So like if you played a fullback out of position at left mid, but then set the tactics up to do fullback things, is it fine if they drop from a 92 to a 79, but you have them doing the right things? Does it matter?
Yeah. Can you out tactic the ratings basically?
Right. Or does the overall rating like actually matter? Like, is that programmed into outcomes, or like is each individual pass, each individual action within the engine just related back, or does the actual overall rating matter? Because the overall rating should just be a suggestion at how good the player is.
Right.
And not like, maybe if you have really low shooting on a fullback, it doesn't have a big impact. It has a bigger impact on left mid, right mid. And then if you run them at left mid, but run them more defensive on low freedom, shooting doesn't matter. They're tucked back defensively, but it impacts the overall rating. The overall is also used in the engine. Thank you.
That's wonderfully vague, though. Yeah, we use it. Sure. It's there.
Yeah, but that's good. I think we don't want some of the information should be like, you should have to figure it out, make your own opinions, and try and learn. But it's good to know that it is actually used.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah, I was looking at the chart again. I have it. It's like CDM pace. Part of their overall is 0%, and it's like having a slow CDM versus a fast one surely has to make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Anyway.
But it's good to know that overall matters.
Yeah.
Because that means that low pace CDM that has a higher overall, it still does matter to an extent.
Yeah.
So you can game the system on the other end. And then maybe you do set up the tactics. It was one of the things that I know Sid has talked about, is thinking about the midfielders like you would in real life. Like what position within the field do they play? Like they're a midfielder, but like, are they get the ball from the center back to the midfield, or are they the final third creative attacking minded midfielder that creates something? And I hadn't thought of it like that.
So that, I feel like the reason Sid and Bob, specifically because of something Bob said yesterday, the reason why they're so good at this game is for stuff like that, of just like, well, just think about how, and you're just like, well, yeah, of course. And then you walk away and you're just like, shit, I don't think I've ever thought about that. The one that Bob said yesterday was on the Ramble, was like, just think about how your team is going to score goals.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to score? And I was sitting there and I'm like, never thought of that. Nope. I was just like, that guy, my strike will do it. They'll do it. And I was just like, man, very, very simple things. And yet I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm missing the simple things, trying to complicate it by figuring out if my 73 physical striker is better than the 71 physical striker with less pace. And I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah. It's ironic because we're trying so hard to learn the game rather than just use our brains. And it's like, if you have a tall striker with high physical, maybe get good wingers with good passing and just cross the ball in. And instead we're trying to do all these crazy different things. And, the site says that dribbling matters. And so I'm going to do this and this. And it's like, your strategy doesn't complement each other at all.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, but my players are good. And it's like, okay, then you figure out why you're not winning games. Do you have packs to open?
No.
Oh, you said you didn't buy any. That's right.
No.
Okay.
And Toby was ready to burn the place down if I didn't open it, spend any MFL, but I'm not doing it.
Toby, I hope you brought your matches.
Yeah. I don't think.
I have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense right now. Now I could change my mind in 3 days, And I did tell Toby that that there will never be a time where I open a pack not on video. So don't worry about it.
So we'll see.
So we'll see. Yeah.
So how are you feeling? We both had kind of this oh shit moment. I ruined our run. For going into the season, how are you feeling now? Have you feel like you've bought enough players, and do you feel like you're happy and comfortable, or do you still have a bit of?
Yeah, I still have some holes to fill. I think I'm trying. The biggest thing that I'm grappling with right now is how many formations should I be able to play?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more like, I think about this more less in terms of I want to be able to throw anything at my opponents, and more of if I decide on one or two and they just don't work with the players I have, even though I thought they did, then I can't change. And so like with my iron team, the way that I had two good cams, and I was like, all right, one can play right wing and had been playing right wing for Empire FC, but he progressed enough where I was like, he can play in stone. And of course, then I get promoted to stone and I moved him to iron. But I was like, I want to be able to play them both. And so I either have to play like a 4-3-3 attack and have one of them move to right wing, which he can, or I play 4-2-2-2. And I was like, I've never played 4-2-2 except, and I give Toby full credit for this, my Empire 9 team was like dead and buried, headed for relegation. And I won my last 5 games after he looked at my team and 3 seconds later was like, why don't you just play 4-2-2-2? And I was like, I've never played that before. And he's like, just try it. Won all 5 games. And I was like, okay. And so I got into 4-2-2-2 and I was like, I'm not going to have any wingers. Forget it. And then I was like, well, what if it doesn't work? And then Bob, I think it was Bob, but maybe it was Sid. Maybe it was both of them, like had success with the 4-2-4. And I was like, that seems pretty fun. And so I was like, now I need wingers for that. But I was like, maybe I'll just run 4-2-2-2, I feel like I'm adding it to 4-2-2-2, 4-2-4, and that's it. And then it was like, well, if I run 4-2-4, I can run 4-3-3. And 4-3-3 attack, 4-3-3 defense. And so, but then I started going down that rabbit hole. And I'm like, how many formations do I really need to cover? And I still don't know what the answer is. I think I'm mostly set on what I'm going to do for each team formation wise, but honestly, it takes like one, what I find underpriced player on the market. And all of a sudden I'm like, that's the best right mid I've ever seen. And I'm like, all right, we're going 4-4-2, let's go. And so like, I don't know. So Toby so I was like, I'm going to play 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-4. Toby looked at it and he's like, oh, you're playing 4-3-3. And I was like, no, that's not what I was going to do, but I could. And so now I'm like, all right, I could play at a minimum 4 formations. Surely that's enough. Even though I know Sid runs like, 22 and 22 matches.
All of them.
Yeah.
He runs all of them.
All of them. So to answer your question, I'm not done. And I don't know when I'm like, the way I'm going to know I'm done is the season starts and I just run out of time.
You're out of time. Rory brings up an interesting opinion. I think it has to be clarified with context, but it's important to have one really strong formation over several weaker ones. I think I put a lot of value in being able to have some flexibility. I think what you're saying is if you have to get significantly weaker to run a different formation, it's not worth it. And I agree with that. Like if you're dropping down a lot to get into a 4-2-3-1, and your players don't really fit into that formation, you're right. Just run your stronger formation, your best players, and go from there. I think it's still valuable. Like if you can run a strong 4-3-3 attack and a strong 4-2-3-1, you run what works.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's at the wheels being polished as we speak. Pick the formation wheel, like Ryan said. So the funny thing is, and I think I mentioned this on stream before, like with my Empire FC team, I ran 4-1-2-1-2 wide and narrow, like for seasons. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, 4-1-2-1-2 is broken. Like you can't, it sucks. Nobody should ever run it. And then it was like, I'm pretty sure the guy that won like 8 straight diamond leagues runs the 4-1-2-1-2. And not to say my players are set up the same way, but that's what led me to make that video of
the meta.
Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know what it is, but I don't think there is a meta, because there's extreme success in parts of the pyramid that other people are having trouble with, but that doesn't mean you can't have it below. And so it does feel the same way of how many formations do I really need? And should I just run 4-2-2-2 all season and just not worry about anything else, or not? I don't know.
Toby said it's a detriment, and Kev, I think, is disagreeing. I think you have to understand how the different formations work and how they work against the opposing formation. I think that's how it can be a detriment. Like, if you don't have a lot of experience running your 4-1-2-2 wide against 4-3-3, then yeah, it's a detriment. Sure, like you may not understand how you're defending against the wingers and where the spaces are and where you need to set up tactically. But if that's one of the benefits of running one formation over and over and over and over again. Like at this point, Ronan has to know what he needs. If he knows the opponent's formation, he has to know exactly how he's setting up his team, where the spaces are to attack into, and where the opportunities are for the opponent to attack into him.
Yeah.
And so he can tinker to move stuff around. I think, and you may have a really good natural read on this, I think that's one of the more challenging things with the 4-2-2-2 is like, what do you do with the second center CDM? What do you do with the second attacking mid? What do you do with the fullbacks? Are they offensive? Are they defensive? Are they sitting back low? Like, to me, if I just have one of each, my brain can kind of process like, okay, one of the CDMs sits back and helps the defense move the ball up the field, and then the attacking mids are the next layer. Like, I have a tough time getting over the fact that the second in the position is redundant and doing something different with them. I just have kind of a mental lock in terms of thinking like how the flow of the game is going to go. Like, do I want the fullbacks getting way up, but then do I need to sit both CDMs back to help defensively? And then am I just wasting with an extra player defensively? And I think that that's when you talk about multiple formations and how they work. If you can have a good feel for how the formation flows and how it flows into the opponent, it's great. But if you can't kind of visualize and think about how this is going to play out or how I think this should play out, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Like if you're confusing yourself and spiraling into a hole, then yeah, of course.
So the answer to the CDM thing is very simple. High pace, high physical, Ryan. That's all you need.
Just do everything.
It's funny. So I reached out to Bob about the 4-2-4 because I was you just like look at the formation and you're like, there is so much field space empty in the middle, so much. And I was just looking at it like, how does this ever work? You must have to have extremely fast center mids. Like I go back to the pace thing because I was like, because there's just so much ground to cover. And I kind of had the same thing with the 4-2-2-2 that I was like, there's so much space on the wings because everybody's in the middle except your fullbacks. And then it's like, well, if the fullbacks move up, now there's space back there. So the good thing is that I've run 0 friendlies using 4-2-2. So I have no idea how it's going to work, but I'm going to do it. Maybe today. Actually.
Run friendlies or
I'm going to run friendlies and see what these 2 formations look like because I just have to know what they look like. And if I'm watching this and it's like, oh, this can't work, or, you know, I have like one fullback that I'm fairly certain I'm going to say like, just bomb up the wing. And so the CDM on that side has to be a decent defender and be able to cover. Yeah. I'm going to run some friendlies, Ryan. I'm a new man.
I think there's another option. Going into last season, one of my theories was the same. If the fullback is getting forward, I need coverage from a midfielder. I think the other alternative is to run more controlled. As long as you're not turning the ball over, you can keep possession. You can do what Man City does in real life. Everyone can get forward. As long as you're not turning the ball over and getting hit on the counter, I think that's okay. That was something that I learned kind of through the season last year, that I was trying to balance and get right even through the season. Rory, with nerfs. No engine change, Rory. It can't have gotten nerfed. Tinfoil hat. But there are multiple ways to like make things work. It's one of the things that I like about MFL is there is not one path to success,
Yes.
Whether it's building your team, whether it's tactically. It's been one of the things that took me a little bit to adjust to, like talking with Sid, Kev, Bob, and I was just trying to copy tactics, and it wasn't working as well for me as it was for them. It was frustrating. But learning that and then kind of working backwards, I think has been helpful for me.
Yeah. We'll see. Worst case, I got another Stone Club at the end of the season. Yeah.
If you,
I will say that I think the market ended up partially deciding how I was going to play, which I think is like the absolute wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
And I like already have the video done of like, this is how I screwed up. But I'm hoping that I can get my way out of it and just figure it out.
Imagine that you get promoted and that you're not able to make that video, and then we have to come back and have the same conversation again in a season.
I can't wait. We'll do that. All right, we got to go. This was much longer than I was anticipating, so I appreciate you taking all this time, Ryan, because I know that I have much more time during the day than you do. So yeah, great to talk to you. Thanks. Thank you for all of that. Thanks to everyone for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Good luck to everybody. If you have some iron loans available for Ryan, he is looking high physical, high pace. Don't deny it. Anyway, thank you to everybody. Heat maps to glory. There we go. Love that. Good luck with all of your season 10 prep, but also don't forget to go outside.